Welcome, curious hearts and sleepless romantics, to your refuge for whispers that turn into confessions and rumors that feel like memories. You're tuned into Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Tonight, a breeze rolls in from the Aegean, soft but charged, carrying salt, secrecy, and a pulse that sounds frighteningly like a heart deciding to hope again. The tide is high, and in the eye of the storm stand two names that have never truly left our collective imagination: Hazal and Çağatay Ulusoy. If you assumed their chapter had finally closed, clear your mind and lean in, because what's unfolding has the glow of a clandestine escape and the warmth of an unfinished sentence. Before we step into Bodrum's moonlit lanes and the hush of a villa by the water, a small favor that keeps this family thriving. Subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, tap the bell so you don't miss a heartbeat, and, if our deep dives keep you company on nights like this, consider joining our inner circle through the subscribe button. Your like is our lighthouse, your comment, the bridge between us. Ready? Dim the lights. We begin. Dear friends of Turkish Spotlight Secrets, some stories resist the final period. They live on commas, on sidelong glances, on pauses that feel louder than words. The saga of Hazal and Çağatay Ulusoy belongs to that realm where nostalgia blurs into possibility. After months of speculative whispers, polite denials, and careful distance, a fresh wave has washed over social media, redrawing the borders of what people think they know. This time, the rumor isn't a casual sighting in a crowded Istanbul cafe. It's more intimate, more solemn. It's a supposed retreat to Bodrum, that turquoise sanctuary where the sun lingers and the night has a memory. It began, as these things often do, with a single snapshot snatched through the grain of dusk. A local paparazzo's lens caught an image so blurred it's more feeling than detail: two silhouettes slipping past the threshold of a shoreline villa, the sea at their backs and a silence between them that looked almost intentional. They arrived at staggered hours, witnesses claim, one in the late afternoon, one just after the sky turned violet. The detail that stirred the pot wasn't the careful choreography of their entrances, but what followed. According to more than one pair of watchful eyes, neither of them emerged until sunrise. If the photo could be dismissed as wishful thinking, the city's own chorus refused to quiet down. Bodrum's market, where spices sweeten the air and anonymity rarely survives a second glance, became the stage for coincidences that don't feel coincidental. The first sighting. Hazal, nearly unrecognizable behind oversized sunglasses and a cap pulled low, her steps unhurried but her presence measured. Her voice, though, gave her away to those who have watched her for years. She asked for white blossoms, simple, luminous, the kind that suggest wiping a slate clean, and a selection of tropical fruit that glowed like small suns. A few hours later, as if completing a sentence, Çağatay appeared. No disguise, just that open grin that disarms without trying. His basket was a language everyone understands: scented candles, 2 bottles of good wine, and an easy patience. Do you believe in choreography, friends? Or in fate that enjoys playing director? You tell us. Because we're listening. And we always do in this place. To understand why this stirred so many feelings, we need to rewind. Those who watched them work know the chemistry didn't fade with the final take. Off camera, the connection carried itself like a quiet agreement. People close to a production once described a tie that never demanded a label but refused to vanish. A technician who stood near them for months confessed that the way Çağatay glanced at her wasn't a look you give a colleague. It was steadier, warmer, protective. He was attentive to details that no one else noticed, always ready to steal a laugh when days were heavy. The same source recalled a line from an interview that fans never forgot, the kind of line that sounded unguarded, almost accidental: Hazal has a way of settling the noise in me. Not a confession, not outright. But something close, wrapped as a compliment and offered like a truth. And now, with this rumored reunion under a Bodrum sky, the internet is back at a fever pitch. Digital detectives have done what they do best. Zooming into corners of photos, matching patterns across timelines, spotting identical railings, echoes of the same stone terrace, the very same sweep of the horizon. The conclusion from many is simple: a second chance is being carved out beyond the glare. Neither has spoken plainly, but the air hums. When asked about love recently, Hazal answered with a small smile that felt like a carefully guarded secret. When your heart feels calm again, there's no need to overcomplicate it. As for Çağatay, pressed about his current situation, he offered something equally gentle. I'm comfortable where I am, among people who matter. Tell me, could anyone matter more than the one who quiets you? But Bodrum didn't let the drama end there. Days after the villa whispers began, the story deepened. An Instagram story from Çağatay showed a sunset that looked painted, the sky melting into the sea, set to a tender, wistful melody that stayed in your chest after the last note faded. Hours later, Hazal posted a photo that might have been taken from the same corner of the same terrace, the sea cupping the twilight in the same embrace. Her caption was brief but heavy, where the soul breathes, ties are real. If that's coincidence, it's the most elegant one we've ever seen. A source tethered to someone in their orbit fanned the flames further. Both of them, this person claimed, had decided to step away together. Not as a spectacle, not as a public statement, but to talk without the constant static, to clear a fog that had been building for years. They needed a quieter room, the source said. Somewhere the noise drops and honesty can sit down. They chose Bodrum because the sea there holds you still. Not confirmation, perhaps, but another piece that seemed to fit the same mosaic. And then there was the music. Neighbors, those familiar ghosts of any seaside lane, whispered that laughter drifted from that villa in the evenings, low and unforced, occasionally couched in the rise and fall of songs. One track, they swore, was unmistakable, Jessie I Am Lat Bana. A tune both had named, in separate interviews years apart, as a favorite they unexpectedly shared. Was it just a playlist on shuffle? Or a deliberate needle dropped onto a memory, allowing the night to tell its story once more? Journalists tried the usual routes, but spokespeople for both sides held their positions with that polite armor known as no comment. Silence, when well placed, can be the loudest instrument of all. Fans, unwilling to wait for official confirmation, assembled collages, aligning the curve of a balcony here with the shade of a cushion there, arguing about the angle of light on a potted plant, timing the shadows as if they were sundials measuring hope. And, as if to gild the theory, eagle-eyed followers noticed a small digital nod from him. Çağatay tapped follow on a floral boutique based in Bodrum, the very one where Hazal was reportedly seen selecting those white blossoms. Was it playful bait? A wink? Or simply the easiest way to leave a breadcrumb without saying a word? In the midst of this, Hazal posted a sentence that didn't need a paragraph to hold its weight. Some feelings speak clearly without asking permission or explanation. People read it as a sign, not a hint. Later, cameras caught Çağatay at the airport, returning to Istanbul with headphones slung around his neck and a stride that didn't rush. Questions flew like gulls. He met them with an easy grin. I appreciate the concern, he said. I'm doing well. That small curve of a smile turned timelines into bonfires of speculation. Strip away the blur of long lenses, the cryptic captions, the manic detective work, and what remains is this. A rhythm we remember, a private dialogue set against the hush of the Aegean, a promise that never quite learned how to say goodbye. Perhaps Bodrum was a pause button, perhaps a prologue. The truth may be taking its time, but it's breathing. And still, the tale had more strands to weave. People who bumped into them, never together, always at neighboring hours, spoke about an ease in their movements that didn't feel like secrecy so much as intention. A grocer remembered Hazal asking which fruit tasted best when chilled. A shopkeeper said that when Çağatay picked up the candles, he sniffed each one and laughed at himself, as if hunting for a scent he couldn't forget. Somewhere between those quiet errands, late light and warm air stretched hours into the sort of conversations only the sea allows. Perhaps that's all it was, two old friends sitting with the tide, letting clarity rise like the moon. But then again, consider the pattern. Their public comments of late had been lined with the vocabulary of gentleness. She hinted at serenity. He spoke of being surrounded by the right people. The posts matched. The views overlapped. The music repeated a memory. And if you listen closely, that's how reconciliation likes to arrive, not with fireworks, but with the steady return of the familiar. Of course, their teams dug trenches of silence, which is their job and they do it well. Yet even the most careful no leaves room for 1,000 maybes. Friends of the channel wrote with shaking excitement, swearing they'd heard peals of laughter at midnight, that they could smell wine and ocean on the breeze, that the terrace light dimmed only after the last track faded. And that track? More than one person insists it was that same nocturne, that same plea to the night to tell its own tale. As if the song had become a vessel for everything unsaid. When the weekend thinned out and the flights home began, the digital trail kept glowing. His sunset clip. Her terrace frame. His follow at the flower shop. Her one-line truth about feeling louder than language. Their paired silences at the exact moments questions grew too direct. It's tempting to read it as performance. But it might be simpler than that, two people sculpting a corner of quiet where they can decide what the next sentence will be. So what do we call Bodrum? A refuge? A confessional? A hinge between chapters? Label it however you need to make sense of it. What the heart recognizes is less tidy, the scent of white flowers catching in evening air, candlelight flickering in a seaside room, 2 glasses on a table by an open window, a guitar line spilling from a speaker, laughter lacing through the dark, and the relief of being understood without having to drag every thought into the light. There are places made for healing. Some have roofs. Some are made of tide and time. We're not here to stamp a verdict. We're here to lay out the strands as we found them, to pass along the hush and the echo. Maybe they merely talked about work, about scenes and scripts and the old days when a pair of fictional lives made ours feel less lonely. Maybe they met to clear the air, to give thanks, to let go or to begin again. Maybe they stood at the rail of that terrace while the sea stitched calm into the night, and maybe they realized the calm was coming from inside them, from the familiar presence at their shoulder. You can call it closure. You can call it return. The feeling is the same, a stillness that doesn't demand to be explained. As we leave this shoreline for now, we do so with eyes open and ears tuned. Whatever comes, we'll be here at Turkish Spotlight Secrets, patient and ready, following every subtle signal and bringing you as close to the truth as the truth allows. If this story kept you company, share it with someone who still believes in quiet reconciliations and second beginnings. Remember to subscribe, tap that bell, and, if you want to help us keep chasing the heartbeats behind the headlines, consider joining through the subscribe button. Until next time, we'll meet you where the gossip meets the tide, with new secrets from the world of Turkish stars, whispered softly, held carefully, and told like a promise.